Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Happy Bringling. Namaste and welcome to Bringle Talks, Women on Purpose Thursdays. Every Thursday we bring you stories of women who redefine purpose, power, and possibilities. I'm your host, Anshavatar, founder of Bringle Talks and Sone Chidiya Jagao movement, a mission to help every Indian live with wealth, wisdom, and purpose and realize their billion-dollar dream in the shortest possible time. My work over the years has been about building purpose-driven ecosystems, from education and entrepreneurship to impact funds and social ventures. But today, I want to begin this with a truth that's very uncomfortable, yet necessary. For too long, women have been left out of decisions in families, in businesses, and especially in finances. And they've been the emotional spine of the home, the uncelebrated strategists behind the success of others. They've managed homes, emotions, and dreams, yet been told they don't understand money. And that's the lie we are here to end today. Because every woman has already been a leader. She just hasn't been given the language, the platform, or the permission to lead. And that's why today's conversation is all about reclaiming the feminine voice, from silence to strategy, from care to capital, and from purpose to prosperity. And joining me today is someone who has lived this truth, written it, performed it, and shared it with thousands. I don't know, I should call her the incredible Mishti Verma, or I would want Mishti to actually tell us about little bit about herself and what would she wants herself to call as. Welcome, Mishti, to Bringle Talks.
Thank you so much, Anshav. Namaskar and Jai Hind, everyone. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be here because just to be a part of a movement that supports women empowerment, that supports the dreams of so many Indians to live a life full of purpose, a healthy, wealthy life, itself is so incredible. So I would want to congratulate you on this amazing initiative. And as far as my introduction goes, some of you may think that my name is Mishti Doi. It's not Mishti Doi because a lot of people think that I'm Bengali. It is, like you said, it is Mishti Verma, and I've been a part of the leadership development space since the last 20 years. I worked extensively in the space of gender sensitization. I've been a theater director, a playwright, an author now, a poet, and working with gender, with women, helping them reclaim their lost voices is something that truly gives me a sense of meaning and purpose.
Lovely. And I think, Mishti, you are truly the women of purpose here. And, your journey is one of a courage. You've worn multiple hats: coach, poet, theater artist, and author now. And of course, being an entrepreneur. And I remember our journey starting up in 2020 with Rubaru, and how we worked with, my daughter Arya at that time, and how we then, started the programs of Rubaru for a, parent-child bonding workshop. A wonderful experience. Your book, Hide But Seek, and I'm very getting curious about it, even though I have, kind of figured it out that it's there, but I myself have not read it, and I would definitely want to read it. But what I understand from you is it doesn't just share poetry. It shares pain, healing, and awakening. You've worked with over 70 global organizations and 15,000 individuals and probably more than 5,000 women out there, helping them rediscover their inner katha or their inner story, right? You're a beautiful blend of Hindi and English, and the way you bring up the things. I remember the word rubaru at that time. And, your work reminds women that the voice they've been told to suppress is actually their superpower.
Mm.
So my question to you is, and I would want you to also share a little bit about your personal story, how that motivated you towards this. Especially the moments, what made you say that I need to stop hiding and start seeking. What pushed you to give your truth a voice through this book, Hide But Seek?
That's beautifully articulated, I'm sure. And thank you for acknowledging our work together with the workshop Rubaru. Rubaru talks about the self. And when we did Rubaru with Arya, with you, the idea was helping children discover their inner self through storytelling,
Absolutely.
because every child has a story to tell. And the world of a child is through stories, through metaphor, through fairy tales. And that's what we did together. So that was very exciting. Now, coming towards my own story, um, I started this conversation with you by purposefully talking about my name.
Oh,
So that was intention. जैसे कि मैंने कहा, मेरा नाम मिष्टी दॉय नहीं है. So Mishti actually means sweet. All right.
true.
So as a little girl, I was always seen as a very sweet girl. So very sweet, very soft spoken, very cultured, and that's how my upbringing was also. कि,
And I
बड़ों
think you are pretty much like that, isn't it?
हाँ, but that part has changed a little.
Okay, okay. Would
So
love to know about that.
yeah, I'll elaborate on it. तो वो बचपन से ही उस तरह की तहजीब सिखाई गई थी.
Mhm.
एक एक तरीके से बात करनी है, एक रिस्पेक्ट शो करना है, कल्चर्ड बहुत जरूरी है कल्चर तरीके से अपने आप को प्रेजेंट करना. और मेरे ख्याल से ज्यादातर लड़कियों को इसी तरह से बताया जाता है that they have to behave in a certain way. If they're too aggressive, it doesn't look good. And by and large, my family always came from a background of artistic talents. From my mother's side, a family of professors, writers, freedom fighters. So it was there in the bloodline. Um, but I struggled with that while growing up,
Oh,
because some people take advantage of the fact if you're very sweet, or you're seen as someone very soft and sweet, because that's when they would
that
try.
becomes the easy targets.
Yeah, they would try and bully you at times.
Absolutely.
They would uh, the put downs will happen, or it's difficult to really stand up for yourself. So I was always a very confident child, because of I started performing very early on. Like, the first time I performed on stage was when I was 2.5 years old. So I was always confident being on stage, and being a part of public speaking, cultural activities. So confidence was not a challenge. And I'm talking about the childhood story क्योंकि हमने रूबरू से बात की है, तो बच्चों के बारे में बात की है, तो हम वापस वो बच्चों की दुनिया में जा रहे हैं.
So if you're talking about women, the most important aspect is motherhood. And I
Yes,
think if we talk about children, every woman would love that.
absolutely. तो mothers को भी मैं यही कहना चाहूंगी कि it's always important to connect with their inner child, and to connect with when they are connecting with the children, to know their inner experiences as well.
True.
So growing up, that was a struggle for me. And even at the workplace, and while doing in my personal life, it was a struggle to stand up for myself. I was self-sacrificing. I would always tend to put others' needs first. This is a common habit that a lot of women have. And a lot of areas of my life, my personal life, I struggled because of that. So then around 10, 12 years back, I went into spiritual practices. And my spiritual practices helped me connect with the spiritual feminine, or the Shakti energy that we say.
Yeah,
Uh,
the one you talk about in your book as well.
yes, yes, the goddess energy. Or see, for non-believers, I don't want to sound too profound because they may not connect with it. But let me uh, articulate it like this: that we all connect with a power that is greater than our limited selves, right?
Yeah.
So the spiritual practices help us connect with a power which is greater than our limited self, and which also, in that power also lies our greatest potential. So, so these practices help me connect with the power, the Shakti within me. And through a lot of inner work, I realized that it is nice to be the cultured, soft spoken, good girl, but it is very important to be an empowered woman who can stand up for herself, who has the power and the courage to say no, irrespective of whoever is in front of you, even if it's an authority figure, if someone at any age, आपको ऐसा लगता है कि बुजुर्गों की रिस्पेक्ट कीजिए, बिल्कुल कीजिए, हाथ जोड़ के उनकी रिस्पेक्ट कीजिए, पर कोई अगर गलत तरीके से बिहेव कर रहा हो या आपसे एक गलत तरीके से बात कर रहा हो, then that's when every, even when you have to draw boundaries, every girl or woman should stand up and say that I respect you, but my worth is more important. What I'm comfortable with is more important. Thank you. So, that awakening started, and that's how the actual personality development or change of the strong personality that you see started coming up. And of course, then I've done a lot of work with gender sensitization, which I'm going to talk about. And the book is a culmination of all the experiences that I have witnessed while working with women across different sectors, their own stories, like my story, their inner voice, and their transformation from the sweet, good girl that rests in each and every person to, I won't say a bad girl, but to a strong girl who knows her worth and knows when to stand up for herself.
Wonderful. And I think, you know, uh, Mishti, the kind of Shakti you are talking about,
Mm,
I remember my daughter at 10 years old when
mm,
you were kind of mentoring her
mm,
actually to start the storytellings
mm,
for her. And then
mm,
she actually did 10 stories back to back, on
mm,
the business books.
mm,
Somehow, I mean, we have got 7 out of them recorded. 3
mm,
we now lost it. But anyways, the point what I'm talking about is, I think एक बहुत अच्छा point आपने बोला, and this is what I want to bring it up.
mm,
You know, when we talk about men of legacy, men are being supposed to be providers, protectors.
mm, mm,
On the same side, girls are being told to be a good cultured girl.
mm.
And
Okay.
कहीं ना वो गुड कल्चर्ड गर्ल में हमने विमेन को ही वीक बना दिया है.
Mm, बिल्कुल. Mm,
हमने उनको इतना वीक बना दिया है कि दे think that for even a small thing they can't speak about themselves, for themselves.
absolutely.
And that inner Shakti which you are talking about, that inner child, is very, very critical.
Mm,
And so, when I listen to you today now, I see a deep connection between your philosophy and, I now can relate to your organization of Inner Katha, which we were working, kind of through which you were working.
mm,
And what we are also building through the Social Venture Fund, which we have
mm,
for skills, health, and environment.
mm,
And why we call, them as sheepreneurs out there.
mm,
And
mm,
the book helps not just, women reclaim their emotional identity, but also, their inner child and the inner Shakti which they already have.
we,
And
mm,
I don't know if you remember, Mishti, we were actually leveraging this Sone ki Chidiya ko Jagao for the women empowerment programs.
Yes, yes. I think we did a program also together, a
Exactly.
workshop.
Exactly. So this entire movement actually came in from women. It originated from women power. So, when we started talking about our motherland, our India, our Bharat's transformation, we were actually thinking, I still remember on 26 January 2022, when we launched the volume 1 of the book on Mission Zero Unemployment, we didn't have the name of the book. We had actually kept the name as Vision 2020-2030. That was the vision. Because we had the vision, but we didn't know how to go about it. We didn't even have the name of the movement. Suddenly, that time I was just scrolling through the Facebook, and 5 years ago, when I started that movement of Sone ki Chidiya, that popped up again as a reminder. And that's where I said, why not the same name? Because the whole aspect is we call women Lakshmi in our country.
Beautiful.
Right? Whenever we get a daughter, and I have a beautiful daughter, and when she was born, anybody who gets daughter in their homes, they say Lakshmi. लड़के के लिए ये नहीं बोला जाता राम आया है या कोई और आया है, बट लड़की के लिए हमेशा बोला जाता है कि लक्ष्मी आई है. And when we talk about Lakshmi, when we talk about Sone ki Chidiya, and it's all about that. And when we kind of make an analogy to our Diwali is coming any which ways, right? Diwali, the Ta is also our wealth, our mother. It was taken up by the foreigners. Same way, our talent, our wealth is being taken away by the foreigners. So why don't we bring that back? Why don't we risk, secure our legacy? And that's where this Sone ki Chidiya ko Jagao movement came in. But you also mentioned a very important point, awakening. Because this Sone ki Chidiya ko Jagao is not just about awakening the golden bird for the country or the country itself. It's about every individual. The day you figure it out that the awakening has happened, you're towards your higher purpose, which you have gotten with this book or maybe earlier, is what the awakening the golden bird is all about. So you've actually very beautifully explained this entire Sone ki Chidiya ko Jagao or awakening the golden bird movement. Because legacy, power, money, wealth, everything is fine. But what is important is unless you're self-satisfied, you understand yourself, your value, nothing you can do. And that is where our fund helps, everyone to reclaim their financial identity, and especially women on this Women on Purpose Thursdays we talk about. Because, both are acts of courage, both are forms of creation, both are movements for nation building. Because when women invest, whether in art, education, or enterprise, they don't just build wealth, they build well-being.
Beautiful.
And Mishti, आपने शक्ति की बात करी, not as a myth, because बहुत सारी शक्तियां हैं, हम लोग myth और एक wrong sense में भी use करते हैं, but as a living force within every woman.
Beautiful.
And that actually resonates with our vision of Women on Purpose. Shakti principle says creation and compassion are not opposites of power. They are power themselves. Because when women lead, they don't dominate, they design. They don't conquer, they cultivate. They don't command, they connect. So here is my question for you. What do you see as the biggest barrier today, from keeping women from expressing their truth and stepping into leadership 100% or committedly, fully?
I think, Anshu, you have, said some very powerful statements that women cultivate and women create, and the whole power of creation that you explained through Shakti principle. At this moment, I just want to say something that Shakti is, as a principle, is gender neutral. Because while you are having this dialogue with me, I see so much of Shakti principle emanating from you as well. Because I see the same level of compassion, the same level of connection, the same level of passion. So I would always want to reignite this power in individuals, and help them see the greatest potential that lies within their own lives. That is the Shakti principle, which is beyond, again, like what you said, it is beyond control. It is beyond that, the whole idea of ego. It's about letting the ego, and moving from an ecosystem to an ecosystem, which
Wow.
is,
Ecosystem. This is
yes,
a beautiful word, Mishti.
so which is creating a, a, a culture of allyship, where men and women don't see each other as competitive forces but collaborative forces. So even at homes, now when you're talking about gender collaborative roles, when men and women work in partnership to manage the chores at home, or raising their children, or co-creating wealth, there is a different equation, teamwork, and they can create so much of value together. So it is about, just helping women tap into some level of support, and vice versa. And the work that we have done really talks about that, because when we started in a Katha in 2008, we started it based on research. So even my book is based on the work that I've done with 5,000 women leaders in India, and 2,000 globally. So their stories, their experiences, their pain points, their innermost voices that they've not been able to articulate. So all of that is there in the book, with a lot of resources and poems that are a reflection of their soul. So they can really connect and find ways to empower themselves. So coming back to the point, when we started in Akatha, it was based on research that indicated that women in India measure themselves based on social identity rather than self identity, which is they measure themselves on how people perceive them in social roles. Are they a good mother? Are they a good daughter? Are they a good daughter in law? And so on. And if they
A
do,
good cultured girl.
गुड कल्चर गोल, वी आर कमिंग बैक टू दैट स्टेटमेंट. और अगर वो चार लोगों के एक्सपेक्टेशंस फुलफिल नहीं कर पाए, तो वो अपने आप से पूछते हैं कि मेरा वजूद क्या है. सो
And I want to hold you there. I mean, sorry. But actually, this is true for everybody, as you rightly said, not just for women, also for men. And, because at one side, when we are teaching our daughters, our sisters, that you should be a good cultured girl without actually defining what is good culture. Probably you're suppressing them, their thoughts, their desires, their emotions, their capabilities even. On the other side, we are pushing men or our children or the boys or brothers to to kind of work hard. Work hard so much that even if they kind of reach to a stage of I would say destroyment, destruction, but they still have to survive. They still have to do it for their family.
I completely agree with you on that.
It's a very competitive world which we are making it for men, and
very cutthroat.
Exactly, and that is where the emotional side of it is very, very critical. In fact, I would want you to invite you for my another Bringle Talks theme of Men of Legacy, which I do it on Sundays, because what you mentioned about that, it is very important for a man also, for that Shakti within. Somewhere we men have lost touch with emotions. Statement, men can't cry.
Yes. Boys don't cry.
Boys don't cry. But the point is that why can't?
Absolutely. I hear you.
Why cannot? And why it is a society's expectations from a women to be a good cultured girl. So I will not take the discussions towards men, but I would rather bring it back to the women. So you beautifully mentioned good cultured Good.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, nobody knows what is the definition of this good culture.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes, आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं. And I just also want to park on that point and pause a little here. That let's not silence the voices of men either. Their inner voices, their heart, because a lot of men experience shutdown of emotions because that's what they've been taught. जो आप कह रहे हैं. And I will not elaborate on this piece too much. जैसे कि आपने कहा, this session is more about women. So maybe another conversation warrants that discussion. But मैं ये जरूर कहना चाहूंगी कि it is about connecting with your true voice.
True.
आपकी inner आवाज क्या है? What the boy in the man really wants to say. And maybe he needs that support from his spouse. Maybe he needs that support from his daughter, that his daughter hugs him and says that, you've done so much. And I hear you. मैं आपके लिए एक गरम चाय ले आती हूँ. और आज बैठ के बस आपकी बात सुनती हूँ.
Wow. You've actually made me having tears in my eyes right now. Again, boys don't cry, you say, right? But this is a very beautiful, because touched a very touchy emotional chord of mine at this point in time. But let's move ahead. What you're saying actually is reminding me of why we designed the She Fund. It's not about money. It's about transforming emotion into economy.
Beautiful.
It's not charity. It's change. Because when women create, invest, and lead, we see three miracles happening. They build wealth, they build confidence, and they build community. Emotions, connects the community. And that's the feminine model of growth. Not for profit, but with purpose.
Absolutely. And it's so important for women to be financially independent. With your permission, I'm just coming back to the research that we had conducted and this whole part of social identity that came up. So when we started in the Katha, we started it as a rally cry for self-identity. So we start our first workshop was for women, helping them discover who they are, what their core strength is, beyond what the society wants them to be, or how they should be perceived. तो वो तो मतलब हमने शुरुआत ही पर्पस से की थी. उस वक्त तो इतना कुछ जहन में था भी नहीं कि कॉर्पोरेट ट्रेनिंग में जाना है या ये कुछ करना है. उस वक्त तो आई वाज इन अ मार्केटिंग रोल and I was working with a media company, and I was in a transition phase because I had a theater background, and I had a corporate background. So I thought that कुछ करते हैं, women के लिए कुछ करते हैं, कोई एक अलग सा एक learning environment create करते हैं और कुछ करते हैं. उसके बाद हमें जेनपैक्ट के लिए एक प्रोजेक्ट मिला ऑन वुमेन लीडरशिप, जिनके लिए हमने 5-6 प्रोग्राम्स किए और इसी तरीके से किए. एंड दैट्स हाउ वी गॉट इनटू द स्पेस of working with women managers. We had already done research. We knew that premise that women need to move towards self-identity. And it is so important. Why self-identity is so important? If you just look at your homes, तो उसमें आपकी grandmothers और आपकी नानी या कोई आपके घर में ऐसा होगा who still struggling to find their own identity. Who wants to feel that sense of who I am, my own voice, my own respect. And it is so important when women are financially independent, or they have an identity through their careers, through talent, through hobbies, through any form and expression, then their well-being also improves to a great extent. So, of course, the corporate context is very different because we started working towards glass ceiling barriers and the challenges that come up there. So that became a different story. But and then we, pivoted towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it became a broader landscape. But at the very core of it, it is so important for women in our country to just own up to who they are, irrespective of what their husbands, fathers, father in laws, children want them to be. So
In fact, sometimes they themselves.
they themselves, वही तो मैं कह रही हूँ, बहुत जरूरी है वो, क्यों मतलब at
So,
this, हाँ जी,
I mean, I want to take this forward now.
हम्म,
There's so much of important things. And, if I'm not mistaken, one of my favorite things, whichever I've kind of little bit read about your book, you mentioned that every emotion is a teacher,
हम्म,
right?
हम्म,
And when we start listening to what we feel, we begin leading from authenticity.
हम्म,
And I somehow believe that India is at that inflection point because while we are working towards becoming the startups and skills capital of the world,
हम्म,
but emotional intelligence and expression
हम्म,
are what will actually define our true leadership.
absolutely.
So, Mishti, from your personal journey as
Hmm.
well, and if you can share your some personal story, which
Hmm.
kind of motivated you to bring it to this level where you are today. How
Hmm.
can what do you think that how can women use art, creativity, and voice not just for self-discovery, but for leadership in organizations, families, or maybe in communities?
That's a very important point. So, leadership is very important. In fact, self leadership is very important. And like I said, when we pivoted towards working with gender diversity, one of our goals in organizations was to help organizations increase the pipeline of women leaders.
Hmm.
So, leadership became an important theme to work towards. And how can women lead while navigating the emotions? Is that's what I've also written in the book, that many times what happens is that women unconsciously start hiding behind the masculine, which is in order to look tougher,
Mhm.
to get the promotions or sometimes be perceived in a certain way, they start suppressing their own emotions. And there's a word that is used, covering, so they cover up a lot of things. They maybe hide personal pictures of families, if they're perceived as someone who would take too much of maternity leaves, or would spend too much time with family, will not be willing to travel to remote locations. So these are the stereotypes that come up. So women tend to hide behind the masculine. They take up masculine identities. They unconsciously start behaving, and this all come up with based on our research and evidence.
Mishti, if I want to hold,
Hmm.
I want you to share a little personal story. If you
Uh,
can share how did you find all these things in your life? Because see, I certainly believe that whatever we do in
hmm.
our life is
Hmm.
all inspired by our own stories.
Hmm. So
And
I'm sure you're chasing
similarly,
my inner katha.
so that's the whole purpose, right?
Yeah.
While I'm interviewing the person who started inner katha, if I can't figure it out, inner katha of that person,
Hmm.
what's the point?
Hmm.
So I really want to understand what inspired you to start this inner katha and what was your life journey which kind of brought you here today and
Hmm.
eventually write this book which you told me that when you started you couldn't stop writing.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. When I started, I couldn't
So I'm
stop.
sure that was ingrained into you, it was not created, it
Hmm.
just came out. So what is that real shakti, inner shakti which Mishti has?
Hmm. Hmm. So I'm going to talk a little bit about writing here and when it all started. So the
Okay.
first poem I wrote was in third grade,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a poem about my father. Uh, and I remember the three lines: "My father has a tummy because he eats food yummy, which is cooked by my mommy." So,
Oh wow.
and I was a little girl then, and but the poem got selected, and so that's how the journey of writing happened
Mhm.
in the same year. I wrote around 30 poems. So I got so excited with writing, and I've been writing ever since. So so it is not that this is the first time I'm writing professionally. I've also written plays. I've always been in the space of creative writing. Why writing? It is like sometimes there is ink that flows from pen, sometimes it's in your bloodline.
Mm.
So, so I mentioned that earlier as well, that from my mother's side, there are writers. My mother herself has transcribed a lot of. She's a poet. She's transcribed a lot of spiritual literature. And my Nana ji, author. He's written many books. He also did a postgraduate program for Oxford. He was a professor, and we've had a lot of people with that bent of mind in the family. So it came naturally to me. So it was not something that happened in my life triggered it. Of course, experiences did, but it is more from the bloodline. So let me give the credit where it's due. So
Yes.
that's that's how it happened to me, and that's how arts happened to me. But yes, experiences in life, when I talk about, again, the same experiences as someone, and I think that's my own shortcoming or limitation, my behaviors then, where I could not really on many occasions stand up for myself and voice out what actually many times I didn't even know what feeling like. मतलब इतना हेजिटेशन था मेरे अंदर कई चीजों को लेके कि अगर पानी समझे बहुत गर्म है तो इतना समझ भी नहीं आता था कि अच्छा आई एम नॉट कंफर्टेबल विद दिस. सो
Okay.
वो लैक ऑफ सेल्फ अवेयरनेस नहीं थी उस वक्त, मेरे अंदर ही नहीं थी. एंड माय माइंड वाज ऑलवेज ट्रेन्ड टुवर्ड्स बीइंग अ नाइस गर्ल. सो इवन इन माय जो बच्चों की किताब होती है, डायरी होती है, जो आप स्कूल में लिखते हैं, आई थिंक इट्स कॉल्ड स्क्रैप बुक, और व्हाट इज इट कॉल्ड? योर डॉटर मस्ट बी राइटिंग इट.
Yeah, yeah. Scrapbook is for their friends and other things which they use typically. Yeah, right.
तो उसमें गोल रहता है कि आप बड़े होके क्या बनना चाहोगे. मेरे लिए था आई वांट टू बी अ नाइस पर्सन. सो
Oh.
तो मेरा दिमाग वैसे ही चलता था. तो विच मतलब आई अर्नड अ लॉट ऑफ लव बिकॉज ऑफ दैट, बट मेनी ओकेजन्स आई एक्सपीरियंस्ड some kind of bullying, or I also experienced some setbacks where I felt that I should have really stood my ground and been more assertive as a person. So including professionally. But that realization came later in life. Ki, too much of sweetness leads to health diseases and diabetes. So it's better. So fortunately, I don't have any of those. But it's always better to not focus on being a nice person, but being a righteous person and a person who has a lot of courage of conviction.
Absolutely. Because that is the whole spirit of being a shepreneur, or, because women are not just investors, they're initiators. And I think when they lead preschools, health centers, community hubs, or real spaces of impact, anything, what we talk about, Project Lucky Bag and Mission Zero, they are the living proof that a women's institution can guide other institutions. And that compassion somehow can coexist with capitalism. Somewhere, women are only considered to be more of emotional side of it, supporting the family, as you rightly said, good cultured girl. And that comes in अपने husband का ध्यान रखो, अपने बच्चों का ध्यान रखो, अपने अपने in-laws का ध्यान रखो, अपने parents का ध्यान रखो. That's all what is being told. But I certainly believe that that compassion which they come naturally with can definitely coexist with capitalism. And that is the purpose-driven profit is the future of India. Because when we talk about Vision 2047, when we are completing 100 years of our independence, it cannot be just done with some government roadmap.
Mm.
It has to be a soul map for everyone.
Mm.
And we cannot leave half of our population in our country for that particular growth.
Bilkul.
Because in India, where emotional empowerment meets economic equality, an India where women are not just the supporting cast, but the central authors of the story,
Absolutely.
identifying their own inner katha. And for you, your work with expressive arts and theater, gives women a voice. Our work with social venture funds gives them probably a vehicle. uh, Together, we are building this, what I call as the golden bird 2, not O. We were the golden bird, right? India was the golden bird, or Sone ki Chidiya part 2.
Bilkul.
And India reborn through balance, belonging, and brilliance. So for you, Mishti, what does Vision 2047 look like to you when let's assume that women fully embrace their voice, their wealth, and their worth. How do you think that vision in 2047, when we complete our 100 years of independence, how do you foresee for Indian women, Hamari, Bharatiya Nari, transforming from just being a good cultured girl to an evolved and empowered women?
Yes. So I think what's very important, जो मैंने पहले भी कहा है इसी podcast में, that women should be financially independent. वो बहुत जरूरी है. चाहे आप बहुत ज्यादा मत कमाइए, थोड़ा भी कमाइए, बट एक सेंस ऑफ फाइनेंशियल फ्रीडम आपको वॉइस देता है.
True.
और रिस्पेक्ट देता है. Otherwise, if you're dependent, then you're dependent. So then you're also emotionally dependent. My vision is that, what is my wish? Let me put it like that. Would be that women in India are encouraged to be financially independent, and all of them find their worth irrespective of how they're perceived, or खुद इसके लिए मेहनत करें. And even if they're very successful, they should know that their worth is beyond their identity of someone's wife, and so on. And I'll give you an example. I was invited as a speaker at a very esteemed forum. तो मेरे पहले जो 2 स्पीकर्स आई थी, उनके कॉन्वर्सेशंस में 2-3 बारी ये जिक्र जरूर आया that this is what we did and my husband said this. This is what happened and my husband said that. So the point was that the topic was on women empowerment. कि कहीं ना कहीं आप इतना लीन कर रहे हो, तो आपका अपना वजूद आइडेंटिटी कैसे स्ट्रॉन्ग होगी? You need to coexist, right? If you really need to be a Shakti, you have to also give that sense of power to your spouse, that sense of strength that women have, because they are light bearers, they are light bearers. They multitask, they can create, co-create, so much they bring. They are Prakriti. But they have to bring that sense of power and light into their families rather than leaning and wanting everything as well. So that's be playing the devil's advocate right now, right? So वो भी मतलब वो शक्ति, मतलब आपको शक्ति एक रोशनी की तरह फैलानी है.
By the way, when you are talking about Roshni, Roshni is coming onto your face right now. Prakriti is sending the ray of lights and approving your points. It's such a good, kind of combination which is happening. So, it's such a beautiful thing you mentioned. And we all are Rotarians here. I mean, our 3 co-founders, and both of my co-founders are self-dependent women. And they have created their own mark in the society. You have met Sharmila, but you have not met Dr. Vinaya, who is another co-founder. So when you are in Bangalore, we'll meet. With her, we are developing this Soulful Smiles and the preschool and the after school which we have. And this is where something very, very important, when I see you and when you speak about, One of the important thing when we talk about in Rotary or any other organizations, wherever they ask them to introduce themselves, rather than introducing themselves, they actually introduce their husbands more than anything else. It's not that they're not doing some good work. It's somehow they've been conditioned like this, probably.
Yeah.
They think that what they are doing is not enough.
Absolutely.
And probably what their husbands are doing, are much better than what it's not about they are better or we are, who is better. It's about together how we can become much better. I think that is how the focus should
be. Amazing. And that's also, my wish. Or you were talking about vision. There are two fundamental wishes that I have. One is that women should become financially independent. काबिलियत के पीछे भागे, सक्सेस तो आएगा ही, काबिलियत के पीछे भागे और कमाई के पीछे भागे. कमाई का मतलब ये है कि कम कमाए बट कमाए. जरूरी नहीं है, हाँ, मतलब बहुत जरूरी है, ये बहुत ही फंडामेंटल चेंज आना जरूरी है. दैट दे नीड टू स्टॉप लीनिंग. दैट लीनिंग माइंडसेट आल्सो नीड्स टू चेंज, राइट? अगर आपको एम्पावर्ड होना है तो आप पूरा ही एम्पावर्ड हुई है ना, तो वो बहुत जरूरी है. और दूसरा, माय विश इज अ बैलेंस, व्हिच मीन्स we create an equation where when women lead, which is also written in my book, when women lead, men allow them to lead. In the sense, the egos don't really come in at that time. We have to move, like I said earlier, from an ecosystem to an ecosystem. Okay? So we work as a team, and when men express, women hold space. They become the containers, right? So that's when an actual team will be there. So एक total support system of the masculine and the feminine within us,
absolutely,
outside us.
Absolutely. And that is where we always talk about from homemakers to nation makers. The transitions begins with one word. Belief.
Belief. Absolutely.
Because a woman's silence is not emptiness. It's the waiting room of a revolution.
Yes. And there's a poem in my book on that. I don't know.
I would like to know about that. Yeah, if you can just read it out, couple of lines, whatever is that.
Okay. I think it is The Wave, page 24.
Every emotion you hide today can become a story waiting to be told. And I think that is a powerful statement which think every woman should recognize and realize and do something really powerful, because a nation can grow rich only when its women grow visible.
Absolutely. See, happy home is when the women in the home are happy. But like I said, I'm leaning towards balance. So it is the feminine needs to feel awakened and happy. So the feminine both in men and in women. When that awakening happens and it's supported and nurtured, then I think it becomes a happy society. When the respect is there. So the concept that I'm reading about is what you're talking about. And I have used the format of storytelling, and I'm sure you like storytelling a lot, and so does Arya. So this particular chapter is chapter 5. It's called The Veil. And it means hiding identity.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read the poem and a few lines. Then you would know what the whole thing is. We will not elaborate on it because I'm respecting time as well. So the poem is The Veil. She would cover her head with a veil, a kind smile and eyes cold with shyness. One day the veil flew away and got trapped in a worldly maze. Unveiled and frightened of a judging gaze, she began to find her way out. She met some who said start a revolution or wait for some kind of evolution. The maze and mirrored reflections, some dark shadows, some dazzling light. Finding a way, she met some who advised her to play a game of chess. They said it's a way out of the maze. Amazed, she chose love over a game of power. Mirrored reflections. finding her in some and some in others, reflecting life in different hues. Unveiled with flowing dark hair, a kind smile, and eyes shining with fiery coal. Finding her way, the maze transformed into a prison, reflecting light and the promise of a rainbow. So I'll just read a few lines after that. The ghungat or the veil in Hindu culture traditionally served to shield a woman from the male gaze and symbolize maryada and adherence to social norms. While the physical veil has largely disappeared in modern urban settings, the concept of covering persists. For example, a female manager recounted having to conceal family photos during a performance review, fearing her manager would perceive her as prioritizing home over career advancement, thus hindering her promotion, which required extensive travel. The need to project strength in professional settings often leads women to downplay their feminine qualities and hide behind the masculine. So this whole concept of the gungat, it talks what you're talking about starting a revolution is that.
Absolutely. In fact, Mishti, your words, we have come to almost an end for this now. Uh, your words has actually reminds us now that revolutions don't always begin with a rebellion. Sometimes they begin with reflection.
Oh, beautiful. Ansha, we have received it so beautifully. Thank you so much. That's amazing the way you received it.
Because you yourself have turned the storytelling into an healing art today, and feminine expression into a movement, irrespective of the gender. And at Bringle Talks, our mission is simple: to awaken the Sone ki Chidiya or the golden bird within every individual across the globe. Because when one woman reclaims her voice, an entire generation finds its courage. And to every woman watching here, remember, you are not meant to shrink. You're not here to survive. You are here to soar. Soar very, very high. Let your care become capital. Let your creativity become courage. And let your compassion become your currency. And with this, I would, while this has come to an end, I would have liked to continue this with Mishti. Mishti, one final word or one final thing which you want to say it for all the women who are listening out this before we close the Bringle Talks for today.
Thank you, Anshav. I must say the way you have received the ethos of my book, the ethos, the spirit of what I've been trying to convey through my work is so beautiful. It's so heartwarming. So this is a big, heartfelt thank you and so much of gratitude. Thank you. And the poem that I read is there's a metaphor of the ghungat, right? And it's a cultural metaphor in our country. While the ghungat is also sometimes about the sweet surrender of a bride, but and the grace of a bride, it is also many times about covering or hiding our identity behind the cultural veil or the societal veil. So I would, my final message to all the beautiful women sitting out there and listening to Bringle Talks is that try and unveil bit by bit with little courageous actions and unveil your true identity, your true worth by taking small steps towards understanding your true voice, reclaiming your true voice, reclaiming your true worth, being courageous, being purpose oriented, being financially independent, because you are definitely worth it.
Thank you so much, Mishti, for being there on Bringle Talks, and really, really appreciate you, sparing your almost 1 hour now with us. And I really enjoyed knowing about, your book, which is a recent addition in the work which you have been doing. Would love to know more about that and see how we can build more programs and maybe sessions around that and awaken the golden bird hidden inside each each out of them, whether it is a woman or a man. And with this, I would like to tell each and everybody out, whoever is watching this, if you have seen anybody out there with you, and this is my statement for you, for everyone which I talk about, to every family in Bharat watching this. If you are an Indian and your daughter, sister, mother, or any other family member, relative, or even a friend who is an Indian or an NRI, and especially a woman, please share this video with them. Sit together and watch it. Ask them, why not be a part of Bharat's billion-dollar dream? Because families are not complete when wealth and legacy stays abroad. They are complete when they come back home. Friends, this is your moment. 1 lakh Indian and NRIs, 10,000 crores, 100 unicorns, 1 billion lives transformed. We lost the first wave. We cannot afford to lose the second. Don't let the history repeat. Be the Indian and NRI who funds India's future and not just watches it. Excuses kills dreams. Action build legacies. 100x your growth in just 10 minutes a day. Dare to dream big or die wondering what could have been your billion-dollar dream. Awaken the golden bird hidden inside each of you before it's too late. Click the Bringle Dreamwave link or Women on Purpose link in the description and comments below. Let's talk one-on-one in a non-obligatory call. Ask me anything and let's have a founders call with our co-founders, women co-founders. Let's explore how you can be part of this movement. Know yourself, rise and shine, and transform yourself into a leader. Subscribe to Bringle Talks YouTube channel and watch 10 minutes daily at 2x speeds and accelerate your journey to financial freedom and purpose 100x faster, because the future is not about watching Bharat's grow. It's about owning Bharat's growth. And the time to act, my friends, is not tomorrow. It's today. Keep bringing, keep growing.